20th at 5:30 p.m. I'd like to start with a land acknowledgement. We recognize that Whidbey Island has been inhabited by the Coast Salish people since time immemorial. They have hunted, fished, gathered, and stewarded these lands. We respect their sovereignty, their right to self-determination, and honor their sacred and spiritual connection with land and water. We embrace them as a living, vibrant part of our community's present and future. I'd like to ask for a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Deputy Clerk Abraham, will you help with roll call, please?
Mayor Kennedy Horstman.
I am present.
Councilmember Thomas Gill.
Present.
Councilmember Dominique Emerson.
Present.
Councilmember Chris Carlson.
Present.
Councilmember Craig Sear.
Here.
Councilmember Savannah Erickson.
I believe Councilmember Erickson is just listening in, not intending to actively participate.
Okay. Meredith Penny, Director of Community Planning.
Here.
Randy Perry, Director of Public Works. I know she's here. Was here. I'm sorry, I skipped over Kelly Beach, Director of Finance.
Here.
And Tavi Wasser, Chief of Police.
Here.
Thank you. And I'm Kristen Abraham.
All right, first item on the agenda is the consent agenda. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion or changes? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Next is the approval of the agenda. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? We have a lot on the agenda and there are discussion items at the end, and I'd like to suggest that we check in at the end based on where we are time-wise. And if we need to, we can delay some of those discussion items to the next council meeting. But I'd like to set that up front and then check in at that time. All in favor of the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Next, we'll move to public comment. We welcome requests to comment on subjects that are on the agenda as well as unplanned items. A public comment is an opportunity to express your views, but we will not be entering into a dialogue at this time. Please limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes and address subjects, not individuals, in an orderly and courteous manner. Please state your name, where you reside, and the subject of your comment. We have one online registration and another that came in last week. Are there any others? I've got Tim Dale. Okay. All right. First up is Tim Dale.
Is he present? Yeah, no, he's not online.
Okay. All right. Mike Gallion.
Uh-oh. I'll stand up so everybody can hear me if you want to. My name is Mike Gallion. I've lived in Clinton, Freeland, and Bayview, and pretty much all over the south end of the island for around 70 years. I've been involved with the fair at one level or another for 70 years. I've been involved with 4-H and a lot of other things. At this year's fair, I am the Grand Marshal, and we'll be using a 1929 Rolls Royce. It's completely restored. It's so spectacular, nobody will probably even notice me. And I will have company in the other seat. And when I realized there was 2 seats and I was going to be Grand Marshal, I thought, well, who should we put in the other seat? And it took me about 10 seconds to think, well, the mayor ought to be in here too.
Somebody
So-
short.
So anyway, what I would like to talk about, and I'll try to do my 3 minutes, is, as you get older, 3 minutes is real hard to do. But anyway, sort of at the last minute, I've heard conflicting information and so on and so forth. But the route of the parade for the fair was changed. And probably for the last 80 years or more, it's gone through downtown, either on 1st or 2nd Street, then found its way up to the fairgrounds into the midway, and that was the end. Well, the application that the fair has to send in has to be sent in 90 days before the parade. There was apparently a misunderstanding or something, I don't know, but somehow or other it ended up getting in at 60 days rather than 90 days. And somehow, according to what I've been told, and I'm only relating what I've been told, it may or may not be entirely true. I don't know. So that's why I'm here, and I want to hear some facts, hopefully, but not right now, because I know this is only public input. But the city of Langley, someone representing them, denied the access to the old parade route and said that we now must, when I say we, I am on the fair board, but I'm not speaking for the fair board, I'm speaking for myself. But we have to start in the church parking lot up on 6th and Camino. And so instead of going down 1st Street and then on up Camino and on up to the fairgrounds, this year, in a few days, we're going to start in that parking lot, go in front of the old school buildings, turn into the midway, and it's over. So it's being reduced way more than cut in half. And it really is painful for me to see anything being reduced that's so positive as a part of our fair. What I would like to see happen maybe is, and in 3 minutes, and this is not the time, but if the members would consider discussing this. I mean, if they voted unanimously, let's change it back quick. They could do it overnight.
It's time.
But I'm done. And so if you guys can do anything to help, maybe for next year, I hope. So
I will ask Chief Wasser to follow up with you on the details of how that came to be.
I understand.
Great.
what did you say?
I believe he said I accept.
I
But
understand.
I understand.
Okay, well, it's good y'all are here. David Stenberg, I'm gonna hold until we get to that point in the agenda. Is Marnie Jackson online?
No.
Okay. All right, that's what we have for public comment until we get to the Coles conversation. All right, next up is staff reports. As always, I'll encourage brevity, but questions that you'd like to pose. First up is Finance Director Kelly Beach.
Thank you very much. I included my director's report in your packets along with the second quarter financial reports. I just wanted to recognize Rachel Enter-Guzman. She's got her 1-year anniversary and she's doing an awesome job. And yeah, I'm super grateful she decided to join the team at the City of Langley. This report is a bit of a catch-up because we didn't have reports turned in May or in June for May. So the only thing I really wanted to sort of point out is that there will be a budget amendment and fee schedule amendment coming to council at the end of August. I still need to liaise with the other directors on what their needs are and any comments or amendments that they're wanting to see before I bring it to council. I also want to point out that there is a typo in the second quarter report on the first page, 5th bullet. I say that the stormwater revenue projections seem short because of grant revenue. It is not grant revenue. It is a transfer from our capital to stormwater for a project that has not even begun and probably won't happen this year. So the revenues and expenses in stormwater will both be reduced, and that will be reflected in the budget amendment coming to you in August. That was fast, and I'm happy to take any questions. You never disappoint. Go for it.
Always interested. Yeah, congrats to Rachel. That's crazy. It's been a year.
I know.
And I mean, I think it was kind of lost in the report at the end here, but the fact that we're nearing the completion of LIP and we're within 1% of the budget estimate for the biggest project in Langley's history.
Yeah, that's how it is. That's how it's projecting right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is awesome. It's unbelievable for how big this project was, that it went over 2 years. You know, it spanned quite a few financial changes.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. But, you know, yeah, luckily some of our change orders were to save us money. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just
that's a
incredible.
Huge kudos to Director Perry. Yeah.
Yeah, incredible. And yeah, like you said, huge kudos to Director Perry and to you and to the staff, you know, for, you know, getting it done, because it's an overwhelming amount of work. And I know it's not been easy, but you were really, I mean, the proof is that, you know, you're ultimately very responsible with the money that went into it. And so thank you for that.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Director Perry gets those kudos for sure. She is a decision maker on this, and she has been very diligent, and all of her decisions come from a place of knowledge, and I think she's done a great job. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, Planning Director Penny.
Thank you. I also submitted a written report in your packet, but a few new items since we last met with council. I have recruited a summer intern who's going to be assisting me with starting the public outreach portion of our design standards update. So that should be getting underway soon. The city submitted our annex to the Island County Hazard Mitigation Plan. So that is now being incorporated as part of their process for adopting the overall plan. There will be a 2-week public review period, and then it will go through FEMA and state review before being approved. I do intend to come back to council's August 3rd meeting with some information or new draft updates to our inclusionary zoning implementation policy and the amendments to the multifamily infill code. So you can anticipate that coming your way. In terms of permits that are active right now, we just advertised a critical area permit for public comment. That public comment period is July 11th through the 27th. And then on the Habitat for Humanity Heron Park project, staff issued a second review letter in early July, and we will be meeting with the applicants this week to review our comments. And then we will await their response on that. Similarly, with the Coles Valley Long Plat, we issued a second review letter in June, and we met last week with the applicants to review those comments. That's all I have.
Questions? Councilmember Sue.
I'm curious if we've received any, actually, you may not be the right person to ask, but have we received any applications for connecting to the new sewer on Furman and Decker?
I believe we've received quite a few, but Randy Perry can probably respond to that.
Okay.
All right. Director Perry, do you want to take that question? We haven't heard from her yet. Oh, is she on?
No.
She's on.
Okay, I think I'm having some technical difficulties with my computer, so I'm on my phone. Can you hear
Okay.
me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yes, we've had 4 connection applications for sewer on Furman and Decker. So far.
Thank you.
Any other highlights you want to share?
Sure. Yeah. The water meter upgrade replacement for the LIP water main, the services that are connected to the new LIP water main have begun. So, Public Works is installing those new meters. This will save us a lot of operating, duplicating meter reads and things like that. That information goes to the cloud and then is loaded into the finance system directly. So that's going to save us some operating and improve our efficiency there. 2 other highlights that I'm pretty proud of. The source water protection grant is now closed and phase 1 is complete. Director Penny and I plan to apply for phase 2. The Department of Health has additional funding, and that'll be upcoming in quarter 3. We also closed the wastewater treatment plant nutrient optimization improvement. That one, we have our equipment startup scheduled with the particular vendors, but all of that grant funding is completely expended. We have a new walkway there on 6th Street, and I'm working with the contractor to get the punch list items complete. Those items need to be complete before the striping will take place. They do, as a reminder, by contract, have until October to complete the work. I'm hoping that mid-August we'll have the line striping completed, but that schedule is still yet to be determined and pending some other minor cleanup work to take place. So those I think are the highlights there. Do you have any questions?
So Dominique here, are the other residents gonna get these smart meters or the?
Eventually, yes. So these are funded through the Public Works Board loan. We will work to do hopefully a 5-year transition. We haven't completely worked out all of those details, but that's what I'm anticipating right now, to be able to move everyone over. The majority of our meters are, towards the end of their useful life. So I'd like to do that. I think we'll see some improvements in our water use efficiency because we're able to more accurately get our meter readings and measure the water that's going through them.
And do they help in any way with leak detection?
They do, yes, they do. There will be eventually the property owner will have access to that information, and also we will get notifications if there's an unusual circumstance. So we would know well before our actual meter readings if there's a problem on the consumer side.
So they still report in once a month?
It's continuous monitoring.
Continuous monitoring, so that would really tell you, because if there was a time when you thought no water was being used and you could find water being used, then you could tell.
Exactly.
Right. Can residents offer to upgrade their own meter and have you do it, pay for it?
I hadn't considered that. That may be an option.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And congratulations on the lip project coming in so well.
We still have a little ways to go. I'm not quite ready to celebrate, but we are getting close. We are getting close. So
Okay.
Councilmember Share?
Yes, the Sixth Street, of course, has been paved. We now have the sidewalks and we're waiting for the striping. And speeds have noticeably increased after the paving. We're probably back to where we were before the whole project started. And there is, I'll just say there's community impatience about getting the edge lane striping there. And, things come up. Previously, the expectation was somewhere around April. And Director Perry, what I'm hearing is that it's headed for August and into the fall. Is that an accurate statement?
I had a conversation with the contractor earlier today, and they are wanting to complete all of the punch list items prior to paving 6th Street. There are a few pavement issues that need to be addressed, and they don't want to stripe and then have to come back and do it again. So I support that. I understand that people want those lines down. It's still a construction zone. It's still marked that way. Folks need to give us a little patience there. But I'm doing the best that I can to push that forward. But unfortunately, I'm not the end all say all on when that actually happens. So I'm encouraging the contractor to get that done. Yes.
Let me just say, I absolutely trust you to push this through at the pace that you can. I just, as you know, I mean, I'm glad to hear you thanking the community for its patience, but it is really wearing thin. Just, I have to say that.
I hear it too. I understand.
I just cannot wait for this to be done at this point. And I'll end by saying, it is phenomenal that this budget came in within
It's not, we're not done.
0.75.
We're not done yet.
It's coming in. Right now,
It's
that's
coming
what it
in
looks
less than a
like.
percent.
Yes.
So presumably it'll stay,
Yes.
I mean, that would be amazing.
It would be amazing.
Councilmember Emerson?
Would it be possible, my understanding is there's gonna be a stop sign at Park and 6th.
Yes. It will be a 3-way stop.
Yeah, could we, in order to calm down traffic, put in the stop signs?
So with a stop sign comes a stop bar, which is painted and striped, and it'll be a part of this project. I'm hesitant to have one without the other, given that it's a traffic revision as large as it is.
Just a thought. Okay.
Nice try.
We've talked that angle through, or I have with the engineering team, and there's safety concerns involved with that. So that's a risk I don't know that I want to take.
Councilmember Carlson?
I did want to just call out for others. I appreciated Director Perry putting into her report a link to the striping plan. So the engineering designs for how the striping work will look along 6th Street. And so I encourage folks to check that out and kind of see what's coming. Director Perry, if anybody has questions about the striping in advance, would those be questions that should come to you, or how would you like to receive those?
Yes, absolutely. They should come to me.
Okay, great, thanks.
All right. Chief Wester.
Hello, Council. Yes, I did not prepare a written statement for this progress report for this month. I've been busy with trying to complete our evidence room and evidence gathering system for firearms upgrade, and it has been a it's taking a lot of my time. So I've been focused on that. So I don't have a written briefing for you this one. However, I would like to put I have to be careful how I say this, a shout out to a citizen in our community who was able to locate a lost individual and return them home safely. And they deserved a shout out. But that's all I have to report.
Thank you. Any questions? Deputy Clerk Abraham.
I did submit a report in writing. I'll just briefly talk about the IT upgrade. It's exciting. We have come across some bumps in the road, but we are plugging along, and ultimately, I think it is gonna make our lives a lot easier once we get everything straightened out.
And it'll be a lot easier for everybody else. This. All right. I submitted a written mayor's report. I don't have anything to highlight except that I am working hard to attend emergency management trainings. The emergency management trainings that I am attending are free, but they are so far quite high quality. One sponsored by Island County and another sponsored by Skagit County. And I am available for any questions or comments. All right. Next up, we have a second reading of an ordinance to standardize how the city administers fees. I'm going to read a rather long motion, and then we can have a discussion. May I have a motion to approve the second reading of an ordinance repealing Langley Municipal Code Chapter 3.25, Municipal Code Fee Schedule, and Langley Municipal Code Chapter 3.26, Land Use Fees Schedule, and adopting Langley Municipal Code Chapter 3.27, Municipal and Land Use Fees and Other Assessments.
So moved.
Second.
All right, discussion. This is a second reading, but open to questions or discussion. Okay, feels like the first one was pretty thorough. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That ordinance passes. All right, next up is the levy lid lift. I'm going to hand this over to Director Beach, but I'd like to request time before you all vote to actually read a statement.
This is the second reading of an ordinance to put a ballot measure to the voters in November regarding a levy lid lift. And I have some graphics that Kristen's gonna pull up that will help illustrate why we need this lift. The first graphic that she's pulling up is a illustration of the general fund balance, the amount of money that is left in the fund after the fiscal year going out through 2032. And the long and the short of it is we will have depleted the reserves in the general fund in 2028 if we don't find another source of revenue. And this is without a city administrator. This is without setting aside money for any maintenance on City Hall. This is without setting aside necessary payroll liability funds. So we're in a very sort of dire situation where we really do need to consider this levy lid lift. Council, you all deliberated about this at the last meeting. Something else, another graphic, if when we get it up, shows how the revenues do not keep pace with expenditures. Without some change, we will not be able to meet our expenses. It's the image right before this one. Thank you. There is a spike you'll see in 2026. The increase in expenses from 2025 were the addition of a third officer. We were basically without that third officer for most of 2025. Pretty much all of 2025. We had an additional $550,000 in grants this year that we didn't have last year and won't have next year. We have $103,000 in vacation payout liability as part of our updating our personnel policy. That is budgeted to be expended this year. However, it may roll over into subsequent years and flatten that out a little. It will never come back in line though with the revenues. As you all know, we have an additional roughly $100,000 in litigation this year. That is what explains the spike. These are things we can't avoid, that we are responsible to pay. And as I said, even if we are able to spread the vacation cash out liability out over 5 years, we still can't bring our expenses back in line with our revenues. Government finance is a tricky thing. There are so many moving parts and so many outside influences that affect both our revenue collection and our expenses. There are state mandates that get added on us. There are increases in costs that we don't have control over, like our liability insurance. We're in a sort of the same boat as every other municipality in Washington state. And those expenses are rising higher than the cost of living. And our revenues, which come primarily from our residents and sales tax, tourism, tourists who purchase things within the city, they're capped. They're capped. And we rely on our residents to step up and vocalize whether or not they want our government to continue offering the services that it offers. That being said, the third graphic here, we did take the ask back to FPLC and had a very productive conversation with FPLC, and the recommendation that came out of the Finance Personnel Legislative Commission was to recognize the time and effort that it will take to bring on a city administrator, and also the financial impact that this lift will have on our voters, and to limit the lift to an average increase that is less than $500 a year on the average household. So the image on the left is the FPLC recommendation. The image on the right is not where council necessarily landed at the last meeting. It is where we ended the meeting at, I would say, is probably more appropriate. I'm hoping that council has had time to review all of the documents around the levy lid lift and has an idea of what dollar amount is appropriate to put to our voters. I would like to add one last thing, and that is that no matter if this ballot passes or not, A levy lid lift needs to be part of our budget conversation every year. So whether or not we need one, I'm not saying that, but we should be looking at our property taxes through the lens of, are we going to need a lift this year or in a future year? We really should be reviewing that annually. And as well as looking for other sources of revenue. And that is my TED Talk.
Questions or comments?
Actually, I'd like to ask Councilmember Carlson, who likely attended the FPLC, and what's your name?
Emerson.
And, oh, I'm sorry. I just think of you as, sorry, any other observations you want to make about the FPLC's deliberations? And maybe not,
Well, I think that, there was a great sensitivity to everything that people are facing right now in terms of, the pressures on money, just that we have to operate with as family and residents. And I think that the citizens of Langley need to think about whether or not Langley is a viable city. That's really what this comes down to. And that's, when we allude to having something like a lift ladder that happens on some sort of a regular basis to keep us up with inflation and other pricing pressures that we feel. That has to be a part of that conversation also. We aren't the only town going through this. There are a lot of towns in Washington going through this. And we knew that. So I think we're all constrained. We were constrained in our discussions in thinking, being sensitive to, yes, we would like to have it all. And we know we really need these. And the thing is, it's some of them, like the software upgrades, would make everyone more efficient. And so one proposal we had, a comment letter sent to us, suggested that we form a nonprofit. We are a nonprofit, so we could form a fund that people could donate to potentially fund the technology part of it. And there might even be, employers that would be willing to help match something like that. Anyway, so there are potentials there, but we didn't discuss that in FPLC. I think that the number came in pretty much just right under 500, no matter how you slice and dice it.
I think the other thing that is worth mentioning that came out of that discussion and I think shaped how this is being presented today is that a lot of the conversation in council and prior FPLC meetings related to the levy, spent a lot of time kind of vetting and prioritizing like individual costs. And what we ended up kind of coming back to in this last conversation is that this is really much more about macroeconomic factors, that this has been a 20-year degradation of our revenue to the point where we've cut everything we can cut. And there are some priorities that should be baked into our ongoing conversations about next year's budget and the budget after that. It's going to be an annual cycle of revisiting what are our priorities, what are the services that we need to be funding, and how are we going to use this money. But this levy is really just about addressing the shortfall, cliff that we've been, inching towards over a 25-year period. And those are all the things that we reviewed previously are important. They are the priorities that we would spend this money on, if it gets approved. But things are rapidly changing around us. And so we also can't overcommit to how that money will be used because we need to be nimble and we need to respond to the realities of, litigation and law and and what our community prioritizes in any given year.
Right, so this isn't gonna be like what we did for the bond where we knew exactly what project was being funded. Those were a list of ideas to show some of the gaps that we see in our government. But you're right, as things change, especially the litigation picture, then we don't have a choice. We have to pay those.
I can't tell if you're about to ask another question or.
I'm thinking.
Okay, all right, then my impulse was accurate. Pause.
Do you want to read a statement?
If you're ready, I will
Yeah,
have to
please.
read the statement. It is long because I am long-winded, but it is only one page, so. I ran for office because I wanted to restore trust in government, and I started with working hard to put the city on stable financial footing. I've approached property tax increases with great caution because I understand their impact on our residents, my own household included. Until recently, we couldn't reliably assess the city's financial position. But thanks to the work of staff, especially Director Beach, we now have a clear picture. The reality is that the city's finances have been squeezed for decades by the 1% property tax limit. The long-term trend that was obscured by the COVID stimulus funds is now fully evident. This trend has been in motion since the 1% property tax limit, the levy lid, was put in place 24 years ago. The city has no fat to cut and is now at risk of cutting the muscle that it needs to function. Last meeting, I said we were one financial crisis away from serious trouble. Since then, another lawsuit has likely pushed us across that line. By year's end, just one of 3 active legal cases brought by a chronic plaintiff who has garnered over $1 million in public record suits is expected to consume the entirety of the savings we've built over the past 2.5 years. Let me repeat that. Let me repeat that in a second.
Sorry about that. What?
Just addressing one lawsuit will consume the savings we've built since I became the mayor. But legal costs are just one of several categories of increasing expense. They are not a root cause. Every jurisdiction in the state, large or small, rich or poor, is facing the same inexorable math. When costs rise 10 or more % each year, when revenue is limited to a fraction of that amount, and when voters are uninformed about the public services they count on, insolvency is inevitable. We've pursued every reasonable cost savings measure and sought revenue alternatives to property tax increases. We've received grant funds for basic projects that the city should be able to cover for itself, like bringing our IT up to current standards and repairing the roof at City Hall. We audited vendors' accounts and cut costs and dropped some contracted services entirely. We cut passport services and front desk hours. We did not replace a 4th police officer or backfill the city administrator, a role that I continue to perform at minimal compensation. Despite these efforts and without a lift, the general fund is projected to run in the red in 2028. This lift is about the city continuing to exist as we know it. If voters do not approve this measure, we will have to begin cutting discretionary services, such as parks maintenance, street lighting, and garbage collection in public spaces. Ultimately, we will consider whether the city can continue to exist as a municipality at all. We are not asking for everything the city fully needs to recover, because right now that amount is too much to ask our community to bear. We are requesting what is necessary to maintain current services and to begin to rebuild financial solvency. Finally, one last point. This likely won't be, and it should not be, the last levy lift. Under the current 1% cap, periodic lifts are necessary to simply keep pace with rising costs. Lifts aren't a sign of failure, They're a sign of responsible, transparent financial management. End of page 1. And complete. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm struck by something the voters did in this city 7 years ago in the 2019 general election. They approved a bond of $4 million to catch up with 30 years of projects that we've not been able to do. And it was a big deal. And that vote allowed us to move much of our key public infrastructure forward. And really that's in some ways what we're proposing here, is that we are trying to catch up. We're trying to survive. I just want to emphasize, if the voters do not approve this levy lit, we may have to cleave off basic services that this city.
We would,
I think so.
I think we would have to dissolve the city. I mean, but
Let's-
there's a certain amount of services you can't.
I think if the voters don't approve, and that is totally within their right to do, we're probably looking at cleaving services and figuring out how to unincorporate. I mean, that's where the road leads. Yeah. That's not, I've been doing some research on that. It's not it occurs very rarely. It is not a well-worn path, and there are things that we would need to figure out in order to travel on it. And that's going to require
And we're
some
not the
time.
only city. I mean, as you said, we're not the only city. There's in the news, Clyde Hill,
Yeah.
one of the most affluent communities in terms of just the property tax base. They're looking at a similar course in 2030. So.
Go ahead.
I believe though that if we can get sort of stabilized, that future levy lists would not necessarily be this steep.
I think that's definitely.
I think that's-
And that's,
true.
I would like to, I mean, because the idea of this going up, of our property taxes going up this much every year is like overwhelming.
Right.
But that's really not what we're talking about. And so I think it's important to say that.
Yeah, my point is we have to pay attention to rising costs, and we have to adjust as necessary.
Right.
And we tried really hard to, I want to retain the trust of the people that live in this town. And don't want to ask too much, but I want to keep us going.
27 years ago, I-695 was passed overwhelmingly by the people of the state of Washington. That put us in this mess. Prior to that, municipalities and other government organizations that get tax money could do up to 6% ad valorem increase every year. Rarely did they. Some were 2%, some were 3%. On occasion, there'd be a 6% because it was absolutely necessary. That initiative was overturned, and our legislature, in their infinite wisdom, as was very common in the 90s, decided, oh, we're going to just do it anyway. And they burdened every single organization in the state with this untenable situation. At no point has inflation ever been under 1% in the last 27 years. We were lucky about 24 years ago, we passed a levy lift in Langley. We got just that little bit of extra money. When we had the Great Recession, the city cut practically every single service down to the bare minimum, contracted out the bathroom cleaning, the garbage collection, managing the library. The city excised the library as part of its budget. Shortly thereafter, it became part of the district. It wasn't no longer owned by the city. We did that with the fire department. We had a fully functioning fire department. We had to excise that. We're kind of at the point, where we have the chickens have come home to roost here. This city, and this is not just a Langley issue, this is every single government organization I've ever had the fortune to deal with, kicks the can down the road. When someone identifies a problem, they're like, oh, we'll deal with it later. I don't know if anybody here was around in 2009. The stormwater fees on your water bill went from $2 a month to about $25 a month for the same reason. Nobody wanted to do the annual increase. Nobody wanted to do the annual check. Same thing happened to the water. Same thing happened to the sewer. We've had the great fortune to have competent employees who can identify these issues well in advance, and we have been making those little changes we need to be doing to keep us going. But we've never, in that 24 years since our last levy limit, we've never said, oh, we need an extra 3%, we need an extra 5%. And that's coming back to bite us here. So don't think about this. This is not a massive increase in the great sense. I mean, it is in the short term, but we're making up for the lost revenue that the city did not go after when it needed it, and instead just huddled along, trying to make everybody happy by not raising taxes more than it needed to without involving an election. And we have to do this. Now, maybe this year, this isn't what we end up getting. This isn't the number that works. We've got another bite at the apple here. But I think that what came back from FPLC after our discussion 2 weeks ago is a lot more reasonable. It addresses a lot of the concerns that we have. It brings that minimum functionality back, gives us that little breathing room. And I can tell you from experience, the inefficiencies, especially with our technology, have been one of the biggest hindrances to the city since technology became part of the city function. I mean, when I got involved with the city in 2009, we were running computers from before the turn of the century. And I started spearheading the process to get those upgraded, get a cycle, get something going. And unfortunately, we had mayors and council members and staff members who fought that at every single turn because it was money. They didn't want to spend the money. So we are 15 years out of date on most of our technology. We are probably 20 years behind in our software management, which thankfully the mayor is getting us into that modern day. But this is hard. This is hard for us. I mean, we live here. And we're just as concerned about what's it going to cost us. I mean, do I pay property taxes? I do. Do I own a house? No. My property taxes go right into my rent. I'm probably expecting a $150 rent increase, regardless of what we do here, just to maintain the status quo. So this is going to affect everybody. And it has to affect everybody because we're all in this together. And I can tell you that given the last city that did disincorporate was also the last city to incorporate, we would not be in good company. And I don't want to throw around comments that were made 25, 30 years ago when there was a threat by a particular mayor to disincorporate because the council and the mayor were at odds about many things. But it would be a disaster for South Whidbey, especially, to lose another city. I mean, we have several failed already on the south end that never even got past the ballot measure to incorporate. But Langley is special, and we have to recognize that. And I can see us doing this, getting it through, and coming back and saying, well, now we've got all these efficiencies, we got this money we need, we built up this reserve we need. We can take a breather. Maybe it's only gonna be 2 or 3 years, but we can sit there and go, okay, just 1%, just 1%, we're good. Then come back and refresh and go, okay, we're gonna need 3 this year to keep the status quo, or we're gonna need 3 because there's a new state mandate that they put in that they don't fund. I think if you have a conversation with the chief, you'll hear a lot about those. But yeah, this is a critical time for us. I know it's a critical time for other organizations too in our community, but I think right now Langley's in good hands. And I think we need to, at the very least, give ourselves a chance. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not gonna not say something.
Okay.
I just want to start by thanking you for your remarks, because I think I don't think any of us can articulate the situation as well as you did. And so I think I just want to highlight, like others, some key points. And firstly, it's that when that initiative passed in 2001, it put the power to raise property taxes more than 1% per year directly in the hands of voters. This is direct democracy. It gives voters the choice on which public agencies you want. And not everyone has the time or the ability to pay attention to the city's financial reports, and Director Beach's reports are fantastic. I love to read them. Not all 1,200 residents are going to, be able to do that. And so the only way that we can ensure we get the attention of most residents is by putting something on the ballot and getting that information out there. And to not do that, it does a disservice to the voters, because it sweeps it under the rug. And then everybody gets surprised when the city goes bankrupt. So that's really what this is about, is by giving the community the transparency they need to be able to provide them with the information to make informed choices about what you want to see in your community and what you want to fund. I think while we'd love to see economic development and housing growth, increase revenue, like the rising tide that lifts all boats, that's a long-term solution, and we've got near-term immediate problems. And so, this is really focused on addressing those near-term needs. And so I really want to thank staff and FPLC and council for being thoughtful, reasonable, and responsive to also recognizing the realities that this means for residents, that South Whidbey is already a costly place to live, and raising taxes is going to make it more costly. Residents in Langley will feel added costs to their family budget with this change. And so we need to make sure that we're focusing on the must-haves and trying to reflect what we think are going to be the community's priorities in retaining public services. And so, it comes down to the choice now being for the voters. How important is city-level representation? How important is it that your elected leaders who make decisions about how the city is run are people that you run into at the Star Store, and that you can bend their ear when there's something that bothers you, or that you have some hope for the city, that they live in the same community as you and they're living the same, similar conditions and environs, and we have similar values. If the city dissolves, then, we punt all those decisions to Coopville. And how often does anybody want to drive up to Coopville? Yeah. I barely get north of Green Bank. So that's really what this comes down to, is how important is the city to this community, and how much direct control do you want? And so I think we'll find out on November 3rd.
If I could add one more thing about the ordinance, there is language in there that would provide for an exemption for qualifying seniors and property owners with disabilities. That is per an RCW. It's a state program that residents apply for through Island County. And it doesn't lower their tax rate, it lowers the taxable value of their property. That's how that works. So council has the option to include that language. It is included in the draft version. And I just wanted to make sure that you were all aware of that. And that is one thing we can do to ease the burden where we can.
Member Sears had a question, Bowman? No. Are we feeling complete? So. We've had a motion, so all in favor, no, we haven't had a motion, sorry, that was the one I did before. I'll now request the motion.
That's what we have, this motion's got to tell us.
May I have a motion to approve the second reading of ordinance 1151 as presented, providing for the submission to the qualified electors of the city of Langley at the November 3rd, 2026 general election of a proposition authorizing the city to increase its regular property tax levy above the limit established in RCW 8455. To provide for the continual provision of governmental services, update the city's operating and electronic technology in order to better serve the community, setting forth the ballot title therefore, requesting that the Island County Auditor place the proposition on the November 3rd, 2026 ballot, and fixing the time when the same shall become effective.
So moved.
Thank you. Second. Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion passes. All right, next up we have the full.
To interrupt, can I just clarify, this ordinance is in the amount that is recommended by the FPLC,
The one that's in the
Yes.
ordinance itself. Yeah.
Yeah, and it includes the tax exemption.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to acknowledge the hard work of the FPLC, the Director Beach, the mayor. This was a monumental effort. Hasn't been done in decades. And there's a lot of work to do.
Indeed. Okay, now next up is the Coles Valley Land Use Agreement. The Coles Valley Land Use Agreement was initially a discussion topic at our May 18th City Council meeting. It was further discussed on June 1st, on June 15th, and July 6th. This agreement is now on the agenda for formal council action. And before we get into the deliberation, I want to take a moment to address some concerns that were raised from the community regarding the contract negotiations. I want to be clear. The city's legal counsel was consulted in the negotiation of the land use agreement, and he has confirmed that the process to establish the agreement was legitimate and not coerced or compromised by threat of legal action. To get this started, I'm going to request a motion to authorize the Coles Valley Land Use Agreement.
I so move.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion. Councilmember Carlson.
So to underscore what you stated there to start things off, Mayor Horseman. I just want to make this clear that this land use agreement reflects the city's desire to encourage the development of more housing. We do not undertake this change under duress. Increasing the allowable density on the Coles Valley property and mandating permanently affordable housing there are in alignment with the city's vision, its goals, and our policies as defined in our comprehensive plan. It is in alignment with our moral obligation to house those who are unhoused and to create the conditions that set Langley on a path for a sustainable future. This land use agreement still adds restrictions in addition to the established city and state laws that apply to development. It does not grant any waiver to ignore critical environmental review or transportation requirements. Those hold strong and will be addressed through the permitting process. So for those that have concerns about any future development on this site, I encourage you to fully engage in the permitting process and to make your concerns known. But I, for one, am excited to move this land use agreement forward and to take a concrete step towards putting more roofs over more people's heads.
Go ahead.
I also support what Councilman, Carlson has said. And also it gets us closer to having enough housing for the missing middle and the lower salaried people. And I think that that is really critical. Gets us away from being all mansions and, you know, a city of totally retired people. We can be a much more viable city this way. And I'm looking forward to this. I think it's a great idea.
On top of that, I have to agree, I am excited. But this also fixes a glitch in Langley. There has not been a new development in Langley since the 2000s decade. We didn't get one in the 2010s because of the Great Recession. And as a result, we are short a minimum of 50 units and probably closer to 150 units because of that. We actually got an email today from one of the primary people behind Generations Place. They had 190 households sign up for their 14 units. That tells you the dire straits we're in this community. And this is going to be a drop in the bucket because those are the people who needed the affordable housing, needed to have the qualifications, the income qualifications. That says nothing for the people who are in that, as I believe Councilmember Sears brought up, the 70 to 120% of AMI who work full time, make decent money, but sure as hell can't live here. I'm on the edge of that myself. So if this does anything to help bring the people who are in desperate need for it into some sort of stable situation, that gives us the opportunity as a community to look at that missing middle, to those people who are underhoused, to people who are mishoused, the people who are in situations that they really shouldn't be in, and through no fault of their own. And it'll help, at least I'm hoping, it'll help our business community. The number of restaurants and retail centers who have not enough employees, or who have to import their employees from off island or from North Whidbey and beyond. I mean, it'd be nice if we could guarantee that everybody would go to see at the Star Store or at the pizzeria, or even out here at Grocery Outlet, is from this community. This will help. It's not a magic bullet, but it's that step we desperately need.
Council members here?
I'm gonna support this. I think what has needed to been said has been said by the other council members, so. Really.
We have one, possibly two public comments. Are you good if I shift to that? All right. David Stenberg.
You've heard me, I'm sorry, I did that wrong. I'm David Stenberg. I live on Overlook Drive, so I'm not a citizen here. I don't get to vote for you guys. But I am impacted by it. My property line is this property line. I read over this and I see you as the city giving things to the developer. I don't really see you guys getting anything more from it. That's my objection to this agreement, is I don't think it's a good deal for the city. And I would love to see Coles Valley turned into a beautiful, affordable neighborhood. But I've talked with Island County Habitat for Humanity. They don't do mixed developments. I've talked with Island Roots. They want nothing to do with it. Where are we going to get the authority that's going to put together and manage those 13 units? That's why I objected this. Not because I want there never to be development there. There will be development there. I know that. I bought my property knowing that. Much as you think you've gotten something, I don't think you have. So I will pretend to be Cassandra and sit down.
Thank you. Is Marnie Jackson online? No. All right. We are through public comment.
Mayor, I didn't sign up. Can I speak?
Can you speak in under 30 minutes?
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right. Gary Ray. I'm a resident of Langley, resident of Island County, been in Island County since 1990. I've been involved with affordable housing for years. With Habitat for Humanity, my signature is probably on the land buy for the Herrick Park. My signature's on the restore in Freeman. I'm no longer on the board. I don't speak for the board, but I think you guys have figured it out. We need housing. We need, and to have a diverse and a healthy community, you have to house your own people. You can't expect Bill Carver to do it. Now, I can talk laws, growth management, all the different things. If you guys don't follow the law, you get sued. If you follow the law, there's a group that probably will sue you.
We will.
You're gonna get sued either way, probably. Do the right thing. Sir, I think you're mistaken. We have had many discussions. When I was first on the board of Habitat for Humanity, we didn't do multifamily. We didn't do it. It was all home ownership, single family home ownership. We can and have looked heavily into doing multifamily. Multifamily takes a long time to put together, as you know about this project down here. And we have a project that's multifamily, it's ownership, but we can even get involved with rentals. We have have been in conversation with the housing authority and other groups to manage our rentals, because we don't want to get into that world. So I'd love to have a conversation with you. I don't know where you got your information. You said you talked to Habitat.
I'll
The
talk.
director sitting right here.
I'll talk with
No,
you.
we're not having a conversation.
Yeah, yeah.
You're talking to us, Gary.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm passionate about housing. We've got to get the housing here. We've got to, and this is homeownership. Another thing you guys just talked about, your budget problems. Habitat for Humanity owners pay property taxes. It's a different dynamic a little bit, but it will bring revenue into your city. And it might be 3 minutes to the problem.
You
Yeah,
got 34 seconds.
I said what I said.
Okay.
Yeah, make just a single comment.
Hey, Gary, can I interrupt?
So one of the misconceptions that has gone around about this land use agreement is that it's set in stone. All this does is put a minimum requirement for what can happen on that property. Anything beyond that is going to be done by the actual long plat, by all the other processes involved before one shovel even moves one shovelful of dirt.
It sets a minimum for affordable housing
That
and a
too.
maximum for density.
Yeah. But this is the minimum due diligence about what the land can be.
Right? Are we ready? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. All right, we are on the discussion section. We have 3 items for discussion. They're mostly a sort of heads up set of items. Would you like to proceed?
Sure.
Yes.
Do you want me to give an overview or do you want to jump in?
I frankly wasn't expecting that we would cover this, but I'll go ahead. These are mainly housekeeping items that trying to clean up our code to make it a little less complicated. It also kind of originated at a conversation I had with somebody at MRSC, and she started looking at our ordinances with me, our code with me. So these ordinances are like, for instance, quorum, even though it says 3 is a quorum, we don't need to put that in there. Majority is a quorum. As far as public hearings, we are going to follow rule, but frankly, the repeating something 3 times is all we could figure out. It was something from Toastmasters, maybe. So we thought maybe that was a good idea. Get rid of that, so it didn't feel quite so. It just felt like we were reciting ritual. So what was
I think the most important
the special meetings? Yeah, the most important one was our code still says that we're supposed to mail notice of our special meeting. So we, even though the RCW probably covers us, we just figured it's a good idea to get that out of there.
There's no action required. We just wanted to touch on these and see if you had questions or comments, and we can bring these back for.
I spent the time and read these, and I appreciate all the work. My question / concern / maybe it's something we want to talk about at a later date with the AI use policy. I appreciate that it's being used as a tool, not as a solution, which I think is the appropriate way everyone should be approaching it. One question I had is it all, at least the way I read it, it assumes a public model being used. And I would like us to have something in there about using local private models.
You mean like AI learning?
Well, like, because there's parts about not including residential data, that sort of stuff. If we have a private model, like we had a computer that sat over there, was able to do this sort of stuff, because that's where a lot of organizations are going. putting that information in there where it's offline, I think would be something that would be appreciative and might make some decisions easier, or at least help with kind of trying to track down problems and issues and that sort of thing. Because they're especially considering $800 computer, suddenly you've got a local model that rivals most of the commercial ones. So, just a thought.
I think it's a good thought. I think it's also beyond our technical capability
At the moment, yes. But I think if we had a new employee that had the technical skills and wanted to do something local, rather than rewriting a policy, then if we had it ready to go, I think that would put us in a good position.
Okay, noted.
Thank you.
Go ahead, members here.
Island Transit has been also putting together an AI policy, and the board of Island Transit reviewed the latest draft, and I forwarded it to the clerk about 15 minutes ago. It perhaps would be useful to review it and see if there's any things that look helpful.
Okay.
And I'm going to forward the policy to Island Transit too.
Yeah, and I think the intent is to be prepared and not get caught unaware.
Absolutely.
And so I think in terms of the private learning model, what I would say is I think it's something that we need to return to. It's something that we need to keep current. And even if that is not necessarily included in the policy at this point, it's something, again, that we need to be considering. So, Councilmember Carlson.
Yeah, and I also appreciate that this takes a risk-based approach. And I mean, at this stage, we shouldn't be using AI for processing any sort of sensitive or personal identifying information anyways. And so I think the types of, use cases for AI where you're not using sensitive information, the risk of using a public model is very low. There's nothing that AI company, that Anthropic would do with just kind of a general prompt like, what does MRSC say about this? And so I think a low risk thing like that, is pretty safe.
Yeah.
And I think it's just way too early, even if we had a private model that was isolated from the vendor being able to see what we're doing, we're just not at the level of maturity technologically to be able to really do anything like that. And I don't think the residents would feel comfortable with us using that type of information, even in that scenario. So I think this is the appropriate approach. And yeah, I mean, I think it's something it's going to evolve and we'll continue to revisit. But at this point, I think having something in place that just makes it really clear what's allowed and what's not allowed is really important.
Great.
I'll never forget in PWAC, we used it to look at different rate structures that we might be able to try, and it was very useful to, actually, because it's really good at looking at the whole country in terms of what people have already done on their code, or, what models they're using. So I think it can be, as a resource, presenting, it really did a great job.
Mm-hmm.
I was impressed.
Great. Well, this will go through another round and be back. That's why it's in a discussion, but it's mostly to raise your awareness and solicit feedback. The one other item on here is a reminder at this point that we're going to have a special meeting next Monday. In spite of the fact that I said we wouldn't do this, can you guys support a 5 o'clock meeting?
Sure.
Okay.
You're gonna have pizza?
No,
We don't have the budget for it.
By donation only, yes.
I'll bring the pizza.
Well, okay, bring it in. All right, finally, council.
Wait, you can say
Wow.
what the workshop is?
We're gonna have an executive session. And I believe there was a request, and now I don't recall what it was, for a regular session. And I think Councilmember Carlson, you stated it.
Yeah, I think now that we've passed the levy lid lift ballot measure, we have until the 4th to designate pro and con committee members for the voters pamphlet. And so that meeting on the 27th would be our opportunity to
Okay,
do that.
well, I think that's interesting, yeah.
Okay.
So if someone was interested in working on either the pro or the con statements, they should attend that meeting.
You should contact.
Contact the mayor.
They should contact, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank you for that. And now we're on council announcements. Councilmember Gill.
No announcements.
Okay, Councilmember Emerson.
The Fairgrounds Commission has canceled its meeting this month, so,
Because it's the fair.
because it's a fair, so.
Councilmember Carlson.
No announcements.
Councilmember Seer.
No announcements.
Councilmember Erickson, we hope to be with you in next week's meeting.
Okay.
Do you guys want to see a cute baby?
Yeah.
Let's see. Let me see what I'm seeing. Here we are. This is my new baby Sequoia. May it please the citizens of Langley, our newest resident.
Yay.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Congrats.
Thank
All right. And on that note, I will adjourn this regular city council meeting at 6:57 p.m.